Thank you, Beth. Thank you for that lovely opening music. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Marjorie Wormser. I'm your Sunday associate, and welcome in this room and online to the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, where we covenant to weave together the fabric of community from the strands of our separate lives. We are an inclusive, welcoming, justice-seeking congregation, and whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We adhere to the 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism, which you will find, among other places, on a card in the pocket of the seat in front of you. It's also in the early pages of the gray songbook that's in the pocket under the seat of the seat in front of you, as well as on our website. Please feel free to take this card with you if you like. And there's additional information at the welcome table in the Great Hall, which you passed as you entered the building. This is a great time to silence any noise-making devices. I have to keep reminding myself of that. This morning's service is what we call lay-led. Our interim minister, Reverend Joel Miller, is in the pulpit 3 Sundays a week, 3 Sundays a month. Pardon me? Where was that first cup of coffee? 3 Sundays a month you'll find Reverend Joel Miller in the pulpit, and on the other Sundays we create services through the wisdom of this congregation, and this morning is one example. So before we begin, I'd like to invite you to greet someone you did not come with. It could be an elbow bump or a handshake or a hello, but just for another minute, not everybody in the room. Thank you, everyone, for greeting one another so warmly. This is just about my favorite part of the Sunday morning because of these warm welcomes and greetings. I have a few announcements to share this morning. Okay, and a complete listing of all events can be found on our website at muuf.org/calendar. Today at 12:45 p.m. in room 204. Room 204 is upstairs and towards that end of the building. There will be a listening session on the use of a kitchen pass-through window in the new 2-family hall, which we are planning to build. This is intended to hear your views so that the best design decisions can be made. On Thursday of this week, the Buddhist Sangha meditation will begin. That's Thursday, April 20th at 7:30. Please check. There will be an announcement in the Wednesday e-blast, the email that most of us receive. And if you don't receive that, you can sign up to receive that or go onto our website for additional information. Please join us on April 23rd, that's next Sunday, after each service for a special coffee hour to kick off our annual budget drive. And on Saturday, May 6th, are 2 events. At 11 in the morning on Saturday, May 6th, will be a drag story hour, and additional information and reserving tickets can be found on the Realm database. Also, on Saturday, May 6th at 2 p.m., the Fun Committee is hosting a comedy show featuring Drew Hayes. Drew's in the room. Yes, Drew's here. Christine Frederick, Rita Morris, I believe, is in the room. Yes. And David Landau, also in the room. Yes. So all are welcome. Admission is free. Just a gentle reminder that there will be an early start to our summer schedule on May 7th. Our Sunday services will go to the summertime schedule with a single 10 a.m. service on Sundays through Labor Day. And May 7th itself will be exciting. The worship service will celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Flower Communion. It will be led by Reverend Joel and the second grade religious education class. And after that 10 a.m. service, we'll have brunch, and the morning will conclude with a congregational meeting to vote on the ministerial search committee. Mark your calendars for this important Sunday and join us online or in person. Related to that, I have a message from our president, Laurent Comes, who says, I could not be here for this service to make this announcement, but I am available after this service to answer any questions regarding the Ministerial Search Committee slate online vote. Apologies for the 2 emails on Friday, as the first email had a link that was not connecting you to the biographies of the nominees. As of earlier today, 52 votes have already been cast. The vote window will stay open until April 25th, and any questions, please find Laurent after this service. He will be out in the Great Hall during the coffee hour. One last. For tomorrow's lunch with your principals on April 17th, the featured reading will be The Building the World We Dream About. And it's a UU program that seeks to interrupt the workings of racism and transform how people from different racial and ethnic groups understand and relate to one another. And there's more to be learned about that. And Don Marks is right here. He has additional information about lunch with your principals. Thank you. So, next will Joe Sippie-Gora will provide some opening words, and after her, Carolyn Gower will light our chalice. Welcome all.
Thank you. You do it first. Oh, okay. Good morning. Good morning. Unfortunately, I learned how to picket before I learned how to talk and listen. How to complain before I learned how to communicate. How to express my feelings of anger and hurt before I learned how to empathize. And how to react before I learned how to hold still, own my feelings, and then act helpfully. Now I am learning how to promote my values and those of the groups with which I identify, while at the same time empathizing with those who may strategize quite differently. I strive for evolutionary relatedness. These words were written a while ago by Alan Wells, our very own Alan Wells. They resonated so much with me that I saved them. 4 years ago, Bob Calafiore, Dave Horst, and I created BUTTON, an acronym for Bring Us Together Now, with several other fellowship members at the time, because we observed growing division and acrimony among ordinary people over our nation's politics. We were concerned about damaged friendships, damaged family relationships, and damaged communities, which I'm sure you share. Keenly aware of our differing views, we held facilitated small group discussions between ourselves and sometimes guests. COVID shut us down, and that's why you didn't hear too much from us, no workshops on site. But we stuck together. Our first goal was to learn how to listen to each other respectfully, without needing agreement across our different points of view. Together, we began exploring books, social media sites, and other organizations that could help us help others. In faith, we use affirm unconditional, universal love as a foundation and grounding for our actions in the world. What does that really mean? Since UUs are generally a progressive collective, we want to challenge our collective assumptions and not act as an echo chamber or a silo unto ourselves. But it takes awareness and practice and practice and practice and practice. We welcome you to join us.
Thank you.
Please join me in reading the chalice lighting words. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Children that will join me for Time for All Ages, or maybe people with the spirit of children. Yes, okay. Marjorie, you want to sit? I'm going to sit. Okay. At the 9:30 service, I had this little girl. She was so teeny, I could have had her for dessert. I made her sit as close as I could because she was so charming. Okay, nice to see you both. This book is called Mixed, A Colorful Story. It's about people of different colors, red, yellow, and blue. As you listen to the story, think about how other people can be different, not only in colors, but in stature, in the way they pray, the way they play, maybe the way they think, too. Mixed, a colorful story. In the beginning, there were 3 colors: reds, yellows, and blues. Reds were the loudest. Go ahead.
La, 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 la.
Okay. Yellows were the brightest. And blues were the coolest. The perfect cast here, couldn't ask for better. Everyone lived in color harmony until one afternoon when a red said, "Reds."
Oh, sorry. Can't read without my glasses. Reds are the best.
No, we're the best because we're the brightest.
The blues were too cool to respond. The colors decided to live in separate parts of the city, and as you can see, there's Redville, and there's Blue Town, and there's Yellow Heights. But then one day, a yellow noticed a blue, and something happened. I feel so happy when I'm near you, and I feel so calm when I'm with you. Yellow and blue became inseparable. But not all the colors were happy about it. I don't like yellow's effect on blue. And then yellow said, that blue isn't bright enough for yellow. And then the red said, colors shouldn't mix. But yellow and blue loved each other so much they decided to mix. Together they created a new color and they named her green. Green was bright like yellow and calm like blue. But really, she was a color all her own. Everyone was fascinated. She's so cute. I've never seen anything like her before. Can I hold her? Even the grumpy colors fell in love with green. The colors began to see new possibilities. Soon other colors mixed and mixed and mixed and mixed. There were so many new colors and a lot of new names. Sounds like our country. Be careful, Jade. Don't forget your glasses, Lavender. Have fun, Amber. The old neighborhoods of Redville, Bluetown, and Yellow Heights, they didn't make sense anymore. Everyone wanted to live together, so they rebuilt the city. The new city was full of color. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, time for all ages is for all of us. Thank you, Joe. This is the time in our service when we share deeply important personal milestones that have happened during the week. Know that we are your community, and if you have a serious need or have suffered a personal tragedy, we want to help. And if you have a new member in your family or other personal joy, we are eager for the chance to celebrate. Sorry, this name tag is, standing on its head. That's why it's bothering me. Pardon me. We are eager for the chance to celebrate with you if you have a new member in your family or other personal joy. So one personal joy comes from Tom McGinnis. Daughter Amor and friend Bob are visiting from Tom's River. Welcome. And welcome to all who visit. Once or many times, you are always welcome here. From Diane Marks in the Caring Connections Ministry. Rides to the second service, that would be for these next 2 weeks, April 23rd and 30th, and then I guess to the May 7th and May 14th 10 a.m. service, are being requested. And if you can help with a request, please coordinate with Rita Morris, who will be helping with this effort. Rita, would you raise your, yes, talk to Rita. From Don Marks. In April 2022, 7 library patrons sued the county judge, commissioner's court, library board members, and library system last year, arguing that their First Amendment rights to access and receive ideas have been infringed upon when officials remove certain books based on their content. An example of the books removed include a title for teens that calls the Ku Klux Klan a terrorist group, and Isabel Wilkerson's cast, The Origins of Our Discontents, and others. Authorities claimed that the books were removed as part of a weeding process in which outdated, irrelevant books were removed from shelves to make room for new ones. The U.S. District Court Judge Robert Pittman ordered the banned books be reinstated. Pittman wrote that the plaintiffs had clearly met their burden to show that these content-based restrictions are unlikely to pass constitutional muster. County officials appealed and planned to close all 3 libraries, but on Thursday that plan was overruled. And Don concludes, book banning, book burning, intimidation, and content restriction are just a few ways in which fascism begins. I have a heartfelt thanks to all who sent healing and thoughts and prayers for my sister-in-law who underwent a 2-part surgery. The second part was just 48 hours ago for a deep brain stimulator apparatus to mitigate her onset of Parkinson's symptoms, and she's managing well. She's doing some pain management, but thank you for all of your healing thoughts and prayers for that. And finally, we have a note of sadness from Shari Lowe. My mother, Lee Lowe, died on Monday at the age of 94. We miss her so much. The world has lost a great soul and a bright light in service of peace, justice, and love for the earth and all its creatures, including the humans. Please visit my Facebook page for some wonderful photos that our family has shared to get a glimpse of her amazing life. And I hope for Shari and her family that memories of the good times will bring comfort at this healing time. And for the rest of us, let's hold every moment as precious, because we cannot predict what will come next. So we are happy for those who have felt comfortable to tell of their personal joys and concerns, and we recognize that some concerns may be too private to be shared at this moment. Let us respect those needs and the ones we have heard in a few moments of silent meditation. O Spirit of life, known by many names, yet by no name fully known, we gather today with hopes and dreams, and also with fears and wounds. May we be reminded that all things come and go, and that today's joys and today's sorrows will in time give way to those of tomorrow. And those of us who have the strength to share today, let's do so while we can. And those who are in need, let's allow ourselves to receive, for tomorrow those roles might well be reversed. And now is the time in our service when we give and receive our weekly offering. We believe that generosity changes lives. It changes the lives of people in our community, and it changes our own lives in the giving. Every week, 50% of the offering goes to support our good work here at the fellowship, and 50% goes to support the good work of nonprofit organizations in our community. What you see in your order of service may not exactly coincide with what you see on the screen, but I'm confident that both organizations will receive part of our offering. And we thank you for your generosity. Every bit makes a difference. Thank you.
My brother John and I have been good friends ever since realizing in early childhood that fighting was not effective. During his college years, he struggled with a chronic condition which threatened to upend his life. He eventually found community and support in an evangelical congregation and found comfort and meaning in the faith that was offered. Coming together as young adults, we noticed that our previous affection was coming under threat. We both valued our friendship and so settled into an unsatisfying compromise of avoiding certain topics. We would have to admit that our relationship had suffered. During this time, starting my scientific career, I came to recognize the value of truth. Views of truth are hard won. They take time and effort to uncover, and they demand an openness to something new. It can be upsetting when we feel that truth is being disregarded. Models of the world that arise from those views of the truth are precious. They enable us to do consequential things. Many of our greatest successes in science and the arts are grounded in this. Unfortunately, we can come to love our models too well and apply them where they don't belong. In his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman talks about two modes of thinking, one automatic and intuitive, the other controlled and logical. The automatic mode comes without effort. The controlled one takes time and energy. we don't tend to fire up our controlled mode unless it serves our purposes. For instance, when our beliefs are challenged, defaulting to the automatic mode otherwise. Worse, we tend to interpret opinions different from our own. For instance, when my brother starts into creationism, as threats which engage our fight or flight response. We have other cognitive biases. For instance, we tend to choose avoiding a loss over an equal or even greater gain. Related to this, we can easily be motivated by fear to do things that are against our own interests. I'm sure you have all experienced a raising of hackles when you encounter a person who states an opinion that you find repugnant. That unpleasant experience can make us avoid such interactions entirely. Fortunately, psychologists have found ways to help us navigate these limitations. First, we can become more understanding of others when we recognize that each of us are subject to the same limitations in our own thinking as they. We are guided to take a pause and a few breaths when threatened, to let our controlled mode of thinking come into play. There are practices we can learn to help us become more effective communicators across difference. For instance, humility, acknowledging that we speak for ourselves and not authoritatively, owning our uncertainty and owning being wrong when appropriate. When done well, we could become more believable. Framing a conversation as an opportunity to learn rather than a threat. And last but not least, listening more than talking. Having read some articles and completed training gave me confidence to try out some of the learnings in conversations with my brother and others. I found that the process of exercising these practices forced me to engage my logical mind, opening up the possibility to view conversations in more creative ways. I realized that there's no obligation to address every point, but I also have the freedom to revise my views when faced with new information. More importantly, by listening without judgment and asking questions, the conversation can often turn to values where areas of agreement can sometimes be uncovered. At the least, I would hope to represent others holding my same view in a more positive light than the way we might be characterized by those seeking to divide. At best, I have made a friend and look forward to future engagement. In preparing for this talk, I summarized some of the practices that people working in this area are recommending, distilling them down to the following list. Listening, curiosity, open-mindedness, kindness, forgiveness, acceptance, and finally, patience. It was satisfying to realize that these behaviors are all ways that we can express love. As the covenant we recited earlier says, seek the truth in love. Recently, I heard an interesting story on a Radiolab podcast. The story begins on a day when an AIDS activist group called ACT UP demonstrated in protest outside the NIH. At the time, Dr. Anthony Fauci, head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, or NIAID, was in his office working. The demonstrators burned Dr. Fauci in effigy. Then they took the effigy head and put it on a spike. One of the protest leaders, Peter Staley, climbed a wall just outside the building and unfurled a banner. Police came and pulled him off the wall, handcuffed him, and walked him through the building. It happened that while Peter was being escorted through the hallway, he passed Dr. Fauci. Peter said, "Tony? Peter? Are you all right?" "Yeah, how about you?" he asked. "Just trying to keep operating. Good luck with that. We'll talk tomorrow." "Okay, Peter, see you later." Meanwhile, the police are murmuring, "Say what?" It turns out that Dr. Fauci and others had been meeting regularly with ACT UP leaders for about 2 years. The meeting started when Dr. Fauci first heard these aggressive statements from ACT UP, and he decided that if they felt that strongly, he should meet with them to find out more. He eventually came to agree with their main points, but was having difficulty getting his executive committee to concur. Shortly after the meeting in the hallway, the NIAID changed its policy and it improved the prognosis for many AIDS patients. In her book, Strangers in Their Own Land, Stanford sociologist Arlie Hochschild recounts stories of her encounters with Tea Party members in southern Louisiana. She found that many had suffered losses in lifestyle, income, and health as a result of economic changes and environmental pollution in their area. The enigma for Hochschild was that these people were sometimes acting against their own interests. Membership in the Tea Party filled important needs, providing a story to explain what they experienced, as well as a way to take action, but most importantly, providing a community of like people. There was a tacit acknowledgement of the power structures in the region and the futility of fighting those structures. Talking across differences is one of a limited number of ways that we can have an impact in the world. Through it, we can play a role in reducing the culture of contempt that is evident in our society. Perhaps it could help someone experiencing cognitive dissonances arising from their views to realize that there is a friendly community on the other side. As it did for Hochschild and Dr. Fauci, communication across difference can help us to better understand and build sympathy for some of our fellow citizens. Perhaps that knowledge will enable us to make the best choice in which groups we support. My brother and I are still enjoying regular long conversations without the need to dance around every area of potential disagreement. Seeking the truth in love or communicating across differences have a role to play at all levels in the quest to improve society.
We're going to sing 1029. Why don't you all rise? We haven't sung it much lately, so I'll play it through once.
Good morning. My name is Bob Calafiore. I've been a member of MUUF for about 4 years. When we first started Button, I naively thought that all that was required to reduce polarization was to give some courses on talking to people with different political views. So we offered several classes sponsored by a group named Braver Angels. In retrospect, however, those classes were just the starting point. We had not taken into account many factors, including how difficult it is to overcome our instinctive tendencies and emotions designed by evolutions for survival, fight, or flight. For many of us, it takes extensive effort and practice to be patient, struggle with and control our emotions, and our ego, which can be so easily bruised. Furthermore, not to react instinctively under stress, to listen without judgment, and know when to provide responses and when to listen and empathize. Nonetheless, there are proven and successful methods that try to mitigate these difficulties. For example, an organization like Braver Angels create highly controlled, safe environments where people practice speaking to persons from the other side, with the goal that eventually, at least some of them can develop enough skills, trust, and friendships to hold respectable political conversations on their own. Now, invaluable as these organizations are, they do have some limitations. They tend to attract primarily people close to the political center, with the majority of them left-leaning. There is a second method. Have you ever heard of a black blues musician named Daryl Davis? I highly recommend his TED Talk. He invited individual members of the Ku Klux Klan to his home, gained their trust, and made them his friends. Over 30 years, he convinced about 200 Klansmen, including the KKK Grand Wizard, to give up their robes. Unfortunately, people like Daryl Davis, with his opportunities as a blues player and natural abilities, are rare. But what if there is a third method to recognize fear, anger, frustration, and other negative emotions as they arise and just not engage them? What if the more we practice letting go of these emotions and thoughts, our sense of ego decreased, and we would be more naturally tend to operate out of love and compassion? Then there will be no need for courage. There will be no need for patience or battling these emotions. What a great way to truly defund fear, anger, frustration, etc. Happily, such a method is available through the practice of mindfulness, and it can free us from the stumbling blocks and false solutions that we've inherited from evolution. This specific aspect of mindfulness can be learned in a short time period, a few months in my case. Now you may say, oh, that sounds great, but does mindfulness really work? For many years, I've interacted with people, some of whom I live with, who were very angry with me. They saw much of what I said or did as criticizing and threatening them. And I saw them as trying to control me, turning everything into a crisis, and even in denying right to my face what just happened and all of us saw and heard. To further increase our conflict and frustration, their politics and religion are antithetical to mine. We try to keep our conversation to a minimum, but frustration and anger would inevitably slip out, leading to more conflict. I often felt condemned to a living hell with no way out, but not for the lack of trying, including working with various counselors, practicing faith-based and highly disciplined approaches, and even trying to deny my emotions, to overcome the anger, frustration, fear, isolation, and loneliness that kept me constantly imprisoned in that hell. I derived some hope, helpful outlets, and distractions through my former Catholic faith, and more recently through activities and interactions with many of you. But they were never enough. Ever since learning through mindfulness how to not engage with negative thoughts and emotions, it feels like I've gotten the keys out of this prison of hell. What remains is love, compassion, and a strong sense of freedom. David spoke about seeking truth and love, and my experience and understanding is that love shows you a deeper and wiser truth. Instead of seeing these people out as out to get me and impossible to reason with, I now see suffering souls who need to be accepted and loved where and as they are. Recently, I went to stay with one of them to help them for over a month. Now, instead of seeing it as a time to be dreaded, I saw it as an opportunity to discover and let go of obstacles to love. I hugged them for the first time in 20 years. I had caring, direct conversations with them and felt thankful that I was able to help them with some of their needs. A similar and even more dramatic change has happened with another one of them. I now can see what a kind and loving person they are and try to be. Whereas before we were constantly criticizing and fighting, we rarely argue now, and the arguments are short-lived. I enjoy learning concrete ways to be kind to them and people in general, and let them know how grateful I am for all that they do. What about their very right-leaning beliefs? I see them as victims who, in their need for safety and acceptance, have been misled and provided with a constantly reinforced story that blames their suffering on the other side. Having access to a like-minded community gives them a sense of safety and an opportunity to easily be heroes and saints. Now, who wouldn't want that? Part of acting out of love means seeking wiser alternatives and knowing when people are open to hear certain truths, and when it's better to nurture relationship and build trust. For now, building on love is what is most required from me. Now, we who use look for ways to free people from externally imposed harm and suffering. Wouldn't it be great if we learned to free ourselves of our internal struggles and suffering through mindfulness? Then not only could we more easily bring people together, but we could model and help others live in fuller freedom and love no matter what their circumstances.
Won't you rise and sing number 1031, Filled with Loving Kindness.
Yeah.
We've shared with you some of our experiences, suggestions for helping to deepen our awareness and our understanding of truth through love, of reducing suffering, of increasing happiness, and bringing our world a bit closer together. Dave, Joe, and I invite you to join us in helping to be a uniter as best fits your circumstances. We will be available during coffee hour to answer your questions, and we've also prepared a handout that includes reading resources, online tools, and groups both within and external to our fellowship to help you in this vital endeavor. See you outside.